What is going on, everyone, and welcome to the Bot Podcast, where we interview movers, shakers, and innovators and talk all things conversational interfaces. I'm your host, Chad Oda, and today we have a very special guest, Bob Stolzberg. Bob is the CEO of VoiceXP, or Voice Experience. VoiceXP is a SaaS company that makes it easy for any business to create and maintain a voice experience on Alexa or Google Assistant with no coding or complex conversational design. They were also the 2018 Alexa Skill Winner of the Year for Consumer Marketing and Brand Extensions. And Bob is also one of 28 Alexa champions in the world. Bob previously was the Director of Ecosystem Programs at CenturyLink. Bob also is a TEDx speaker and has also spoken at several top-tier voice conferences. So with that, Bob, welcome to the podcast.
Wow, what an intro. My pleasure. I want to thank you, Chad, and thanks for all the listeners and viewers out there. It's really a pleasure to be in front of you guys and have your attention. So thanks for the opportunity to share. I want to add a lot of value.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before we get into the more, voice related questions, I always like to ask my guests a unique question that's based upon their background. And I've seen this mentioned on a number of your public profiles that you are a water lily farmer, and you're also big on conservationist. So I'm curious, what does a water lily farmer do? And is that sort of a pastime of yours or a hobby, or is that something you're really passionate in? What is that?
Awesome. It's a crazy story, right? So I'm a tech guy. I'm a workaholic. I love technology. And the best way for us to balance our lives, if you're a tech person like us, is to go outdoors and experience nature. At least that's my getaway, right? So I'm an outdoorsman. I like to go fishing, hunting, hiking. I love plants, and I'm a really big technology guy. So one day, out of the cold blue, one of my fishing buddies emails me, and he says, "Hey, dude, I saw this, and I thought of you." It was a Craigslist post. And I clicked it. I don't know what it was, but the post read something like, "Own your own botanical garden, former fish hatchery, 75 acres, with a spring that puts out 1 million gallons of water per day that feeds 100 ponds that all grow water lilies. Used to be a commercial water garden. 2 creeks, greenhouses, springs, lakes." I'm like, wow, this is like dream property. So long story short, I emailed the guy. He called me back weeks later after the post had disappeared. He says, "Yo, if you want to see this place, you just got to come on down." So I got in the car with the kids, and 4 years later, my wife and I ended up buying the place. And it's amazing. It's the largest infrastructure in all of North America that grows water lilies. Pink, red, yellow, white. They're blooming by the tens of thousands. So I lucked out and bought something that's very similar to Monet's Gaverny over in Paris, where it's just a beautiful botanical garden. And I have a little software startup, right? So the interesting dynamic is I wanted to build the business in a very frugal and economic way. So moving out to the country saves a lot of living expenses and business expenses. So it's just cheaper. So it's worked out. I bought my dream property, moved the family out here, and started a business all at the same time. So I'm really passionate about conservation because my outdoors, but I've also got an amazing piece of property and resources that I'm really passionate about. And that's my next thing, 10 years down the road when I'm done with software. You can find me out in waders, standing in a pond, clipping flowers and plants,
Cool. No, I love it. I hear that actually quite a bit, from, all these entrepreneurs within this space. It's just like, you got to figure out what that balance is, right? What's that thing outside of tech that really is going to sort of reinvigorate you and keep you motivated? And I actually saw one of the recent images I think you posted on Twitter where it seems that a lot of the lilies are blooming right now. So that was super awesome to see that.
For sure. I mean, they're going between Mother's Day and the end of August. It's just spectacular. But in the spring, it's peak bloom. I mean, I'm trying to work with Microsoft and do some AI stuff to fly drones with cameras to count how many water lilies are open and track that. And, it's just fun data, but
Yeah.
it's cool. It's just a beautiful place. I'm really fortunate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Cool. It's super rad. I appreciate you sharing that little bit with us. So sort of jumping into the more sort of voice-oriented questions here. I know your background, at CenturyLink was really focused around, a lot of things oriented towards the enterprise space, and you seem to have worked there for quite some time. So I was curious, like, what did you sort of draw upon in your experience, just sort of being, very sort of B2B oriented, working with the enterprise space on, a number of different technology-oriented implementations, what sort of thinking or perspective did that give you sort of moving into the startup space, with VoiceXP?
Well, I don't know if it gave me perspective on the startup space, because startup world and enterprise world are two different universes. But my background is basically, I'm a Unix guy by trade. I'm an engineer. I got out of high school in the late 90s and didn't go to college, and worked straight away in the Unix world. And so I had a career as a technical guy. And I was fortunate enough to work at Savvis and CenturyLink and Tech Mahindra. So I got exposed to, cloud managed services, outsourcing, and ITO. And my story is pretty unique. I went from an operations background, the Unix admin, Unix engineer, into consulting, where I would do things like disaster recovery and business continuity, specialties, solution architecture work, infrastructure optimization. This is all like when in the infancy of the cloud days, right? Like 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And so I really parlayed my career from moving from operations to consulting to sales engineering and solution architecture. But the last 2 years of my corporate career were really spent in the cloud product world, focused on SaaS businesses, cloud infrastructure, selling managed services. And in my former role, I was the director of the ecosystem and evangelism program and a product owner for the digital marketplace and managed services that were sold through it. So I really was fortunate to go, hey, I know I came from the back end of supporting this stuff. I came from a consulting side and service delivery of delivering stuff. Then I was on the front side of the house doing sales, engineering, and solution architecture. And then I moved into product, where you put it all together, and the only thing that's really missing from that pie is really marketing, But that's something that I love learning about, and it excites me. So my story is, I'm just a tech guy that has a gift of sales and can communicate to people engineering level stuff in layman's terms and the business value for it. And so that's, it's a perfect storm for getting in for voice happening, because, I had a nice corporate career, stability for the next 20 years, go retire, send the kids to college. But I found that I've got, I found that I was onto something really, 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 really big, $300 billion total addressable market big. And I wanted to go for it. So I just leveraged all my experience in my career at the right place at the right time, with voice coming of age, so to speak, So
yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a compelling a story as most of the people in this space, right? It was I don't think there was any person or most people that had worked on voice for 15 years. I think it's a lot of people that had a passion for technology and the experience to get into it. So,
yeah.
That sort of inflection point for you, let's actually sort of go back to that, because I know it was sort of in 2016 where you started noticing some things. I think I had read in an article that you had gotten an Alexa device for your family, and you saw your kids were just like so, like enamored by it and were using it all the time. So sort of talk us through, from that moment to 2017 when you started the company, like how did that all manifest? Like what does that sort of look like?
It was all really fast, but I told you I grew up in the late 90s. So I saw the birth of web, and then mobile and social and cloud. And I was in the trenches with it all, like it wasn't a hobby. That was my career. So I saw what my kids were doing in Christmas 2017, Christmas 2016. We got a device, it's like typical thing. Your parents give away the cool thing to all the kids. I got one. My sister got one. Hey, it's neat technology. I took it home. I plugged it in. I'm like, that's neat. But I wasn't blown away. But I saw my kids changing their habits and their behaviors to talk to Alexa, to play games, get news and entertainment and Donald Trump jokes. And like, I saw the same pattern that was me 30 years ago, just nerding out on this stuff. And then I just took my business experiences and, solution know-how to go, I wonder how voice can help business, and that led me along the path of really thinking about it. But it wasn't until I got a phone call from my now business partner, Bonnie, saying, hey, what if we took an Echo and put it on stage at sales kickoff and the CEO asked questions, right? Like we couldn't do that stuff. And that's what led forming the whole company and using our experience in the enterprise space and managed service world to get great customers. But my inflection point was really seeing what my kids were doing, having a good idea, getting lucky, and having some sales opportunities just come out of nowhere, and then running with it, executing on it. Like I started the company in January of 2017, and we sold our first deal on February 12th. Like to go from January 21 to February 12 in like 2-3 weeks, and sell a skill in 2017 to the first law firm to ever have a skill. Tell me what happens what should I do if I'm in a car accident, if a dog bites me, why use your firm, what's the phone number? Like that was, to take an idea and then go sell it successfully to a whole vertical. I was like, hold up. This is just like selling websites back in the day. I did this. I used to have to develop them, right? And then I saw how it all played out with who are the big winners. It's the people who create the website building tools, the platforms, and the verticals they go after, right? And I'm just like drawing on my experience, my knowledge from the past to spin up a company and go all in and don't look back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So did you guys have a platform back then, back in, January of 2017, and that sort of let you sort of sell that into that vertical at that law firm? Or
No, but yes. I created some skills, and I was like, even though I'm an engineer, back then it was really difficult. And you have to absolutely be, at the time, you had to be a really smart programmer. You had to know Node or JavaScript and, Lambdas. It was, to be honest, at that time, it was way over my head. Now I'm like an expert at all of it. But I think I was the first one to automate the creation of Alexa skills. And how we did it, this is an interesting story I don't think has ever been told. The way that I sold skills in February 2017 was going in and giving them a demo. You build it before you walk in the door, and when they hear their company name, game over, right? If you can play the right chords to that business. So I was like, I need a way to quickly rapidly prototype and build Alexa skills. And I had a sales team at the time. I had 2 sellers, guys that were like, all right, Stolzberg, you sold it. I can do it too. And I needed a way for them to write scripts, like, a Word doc script, and then build a skill. So I remember paying my developer at the time $2,500 to automate me the skill creation, right? And they didn't have all the features in the Alexa SDK at the time. What I wrote, it was basically a command line solution that ran on some Yeoman scripts that I could run my command to start it, and then you could feed it in a CSV or type what's the intent, what's the response, and go through everything that was needed. What's the synonym phrases that you'd want. And it was basically a way to automate creating skills, and it would export a JSON file that you would have to go into the developer console and paste in there. But we were advanced enough, nobody else knew how to do this, to create the Lambda functions and wire everything up. So all I did it, build, go to the endpoint, paste it in, and start testing right away. Then you can walk into your customer appointment and close the deal. So that was when I, just put my hat on. Boy, if the website building tools are the ones that are going to have millions of users that pay them monthly subscriptions, I think this is where I want to be, and that's how we started creating the platform. And then we released that tool to our customers to use. Like, people were like, hey, I just want to do it myself. Okay, cool. And so we gave them that ability, and like, that was the first platform for us, at least, and at the time, even Amazon didn't have that stuff automated, and we just kept building and iterating on it. And while we're doing that, we're also doing custom one-off skills for every business, any deal, any size, right? It's a services business, so you gotta keep business coming in to keep the lights on. And we worked with amazing customers, really, that we're so blessed to have, that they took a chance on us. And really, it's because of our relationships with these people and businesses, and we earned it. Companies like Hallmark and CenturyLink, TiVo did a product launch with us and a skill to couple it. Square, Mercy, Banner Health, and even small little customers that you've never heard of. Shout outs to the Cantor Injury Laws, the First Integrity Mortgages, the Thoughtful Homes, the Total High Speed Internets. So what's real, and I know I'm getting a little rambling here, but it's a cool story. What's enabled us to be successful before we built the platform was having the most customer experience and failures than a lot of other people in the space. And that learning curve is extremely painful, expensive, and time consuming. And so, I meet with VCs now all the time who are like, what if I just built this? And I'm like, good luck. It's tough to catch up when you're this far ahead. That's why I went in all in early. When I mean all in, if it doesn't work out, you're begging your parents, hey, can I sleep in the basement with my kids because my house got repoed? Like, you go all in on this stuff. Like that crap Gary V spews, not crap. That advice Gary says.
Yeah.
That stuff is legit, man. If you want it, you got to go get it, and at a high price. That's why most people don't do it. But I've been paying it. We're gonna keep paying it. It's called paying dues, people. So
I love it. Yeah. I think it's interesting because, like, do you see a parallel to sort of your days of having to provision VMware instances? And then I remember there was a Twitter post you put out where you said, you built this little sort of scrappy script in order to sort of, for what it was at the time, sort of, maybe a precursor to the automation and orchestration engines we see today. Was that sort of a parallel you had, or maybe a way of thinking that you had developed over time, where it's like,
yes, you show your intelligence by bringing that up. And the Twitter post you're referencing is something I put out there because it was like, I saw something on my Facebook on this day from like 10 years ago or something. That was me talking about something I did with a Veritas cluster and VMs and like provisioning highly available VCS clusters, right? These are like super high-end database systems for those that don't know, with like active failovers and stuff. And it takes a lot to provision the infrastructure, like the storage and, the compute and all the stuff and the load balance, all the stuff you need to then put an application on top of it and then configure the application, right? It's, I used to have to write documentation when I was in operations and engineering that was hundreds and hundreds of steps because it has to be bulletproof, right? This is mission critical airplane lives, finances that like depend on this crap and nothing can go wrong. So I automated it, right? Because I got so sick of doing this that I said, let's throw everything into an Excel file, build a CSV, then I can write this super elite shell script that parses all my values and then just goes and runs all the automated commands by SSHing into stuff and doing it, right? So this was like 10 years ago. And the reason I am successful today is because I spent my career supporting Unix operating systems, which support the most resilient applications out there. And I used to have to support a lot of these web applications, JBoss, Tomcat, Apache, and the data and the whole 3-tier stack. And when you understand how applications are developed, how all of these pieces, and it's extremely complex when you understand what goes into build, support, maintain that, and then why the customer buys it, that's what I've got. And so my perspective of my career in cloud and experience in that space is what has enabled me to develop something special and have, a unique product,
I love it. It totally speaks to, that mix of just experience and that passion to iterate on things. So why don't you sort of explain, like, where is the company at today? I see you guys pushing out like new feature launches, every couple of weeks. You guys are expanding as far as, the clients you guys are going after and how big the team is and the product itself and the different services you guys offer. So where are you guys sort of standing today and what's sort of the next steps for you guys as a company?
A great question. We're in such an exciting place right now. I feel like the industry as a whole is on this full tilt. And I feel it happening with VoiceXP. We've been, for the past 2.5 years, we've been a services business, right? We've been an agency, and we're making the pivot to a SaaS company. And I want VoiceXP to be, an 80% SaaS business, 20% custom skills and voice application development and integrations, right? Because it's tough to not say yes to good business that is meaningful, that has good margins, to help, hospitals and other technology companies integrate voice with their stuff, right? So turning down big deals for big logos is not something I want to stop doing. We've earned and proved our experience in that space, and we don't want to slow down. But I want to focus on a software as a services business that goes to every small business across the globe and says, hey, use VoiceXP to build your voice experience on all the platforms. So where we're at today is we're making that pivot. We publicly launched our platform on June 1st, and that was when we introduced our first free tier. We've been market testing it since January, earlier in the year. And, I tell people you might have heard the term cloud native, right? That's a company or technology that's born in the cloud. Well, we're voice native. That's like the next evolution of cloud native. And that's, we run all of our stuff in cloud. We're 100% focused on voice. And that's where the business is going to stay. I forgot where I was going with that. So what we're doing now, we built the easiest to use platform to create a feature-rich multimodal voice experience on 2 of the 3 big platforms. So you can automate things to Alexa right now, and you can open up a ticket and we'll put your stuff on Google, and then you can use our CMS platform to update all the content in your skill and your action. For those that don't know, the Google action is not automated 100%, that last mile to put it into the action store. You have to manually type stuff in. So that's why we say, hey, open up a ticket. And that's part of our QA process. But we're going to have Bixby integrations this summer. We're already working to export capsules. So customers can log into VoiceXP, create something awesome, and put it everywhere. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think we're all looking forward to seeing what you guys do, what the next feature launches are. I'm always sort of, trying to stay abreast of the new updates. But something I saw that you wrote in an article, I think it was I can't remember if it was maybe the Harvard Business Review one. You had they had taken a quote from something you had said. You said that being on voice is only half the battle. The other half is how do you market it? And as we've sort of seen voice, in its multiple iterations on a variety of platforms, whether it's Google or it's Amazon Alexa, it seems to me that, marketing it has been something of a struggle for some of these bigger brands. So how do you guys sort of approach that? What's your thoughts around it?
Yeah, super great question. Marketing's the other, and I want to thank, first of all, David Kemp from Oak Tree, one of the great hearable voice thought leaders out there. He's the one that was kind enough to invite me to be a part of that Harvard Business Review article. Like, wow. And what I was trying to communicate there is just something that we've learned over our 2.5 years. And it's been through painful customer failures. And I look at it as it's if the customer fails, it's because we failed them. For example, you can go to a lot of other platforms or skill building tools to create a cool skill. But what they don't do is teach you how to market it. And that's the other half of the battle, because it's just like having a website and not telling anybody that it's there. You can't expect people to use it, to go to it, to engage with it if you don't tell them. And the telling them is just marketing.
Yeah.
And the marketer, none of the CMOs, zero of the CMOs that I talk to, and I talk to at least 3 a week, know what voice marketing is. They don't know how to promote their Alexa skill. They don't even know how to really integrate it yet. Like, a lot of people are experimenting. And so that's why I say you're going to see the full tilt, because, what we do is we give away a voice marketing plan, training videos, documentation, examples, templates for our customers to copy stuff, right? So let me give you an example. You might have seen a little banner that says, it's got the little icon of the skill, and it says, Alexa, start or enable skill name, right? Or ask, picture of the day, what's the picture? It's a little catchphrase printed on a graphic. It's that simple, right? Well, that's one artifact that you can feed into your social media content strategy to promote your skill. And then, we have to help coach our customers how to promote the content within their skill, how that even meets their goals. And then how do you create graphics? What are the omni-channel ways to promote your voice experience, right? Are you going to put it in your newsletter, your email signature, print it on stuff? I had a customer, I'm so disappointed, I'm not going to call them out, but I had a customer pay me $10,000 for a custom Alexa skill for their business. And they had a television advertisement right before the NHL hockey games this year. They were in front of 2, Game 6, Game 7. Everybody in St. Louis, go Blues, yay Blues, we won the cup. Everybody in St. Louis saw my customer's TV commercial.
Yeah.
Everyone. And they had their website, they had their phone number, but you know what they forgot? You know what? They didn't easily just put Alexa, start. We have that auto enablement. It's been out there, right?
Yeah.
So that's the type of marketing that it's not happening because the CMOs and the marketers haven't seen it yet. We have to teach them. And the reason we, VoiceXP, teach them is because their skill won't be successful. Nobody's going to use it. It'll come back and go, I didn't get the ROI. This was a waste of money.
Yeah.
I can't have that. I have the best product on the market. I have seen people make 6 figures with the marketing campaigns that you run through Alexa. Right? This is stuff like we created. So here, again, we've had customers like CenturyLink and Clayco and BWF Envirotech print flyers, postcards, sales giveaways, right? Like, ask Alexa these questions about my product and service, or why I love you, or why we care. And that stuff builds engagement and loyalty. And they've run marketing campaigns that have a higher yield from booking meetings and sales by using Alexa to get your foot in the door of some of these businesses. So that's the type of techniques and real world experience that we have with customers that we give away to our customers to make their skills successful. Same thing with podcasters. That's something that we're really trying to focus on, is to say, hey, you can build the baddest ass Alexa skill to promote your podcast and your flash briefing. and all that stuff, and your website, and all that stuff can work together. And you can have more ways to build your sponsorships into the skill and flash briefing. And you go to one stop to do all of it. It's VoiceXP. So we're trying to communicate those value props and those features to those audiences because it helps everybody grow. And again, the close the loop, marketers just don't know because they haven't seen it and they haven't done it. You know?
Yeah.
We give it away.
No, I completely agree with you. I think, whatever new channel that comes to fruition, over the years, right? The onus has always been on the brand. And then it's also to, another degree, also the platform that it's actually on. So I certainly agree with you. I think there could be a lot better education or more education being surfaced just for brands to be able to effectively drive discovery of those skills. You're right. They spend all this money to build it. Let's get customers on it, right? To the other point, of the actual platforms, making it more accessible. Yeah.
I want to interject something that's really important. If you're a business or a brand and you're thinking about getting into Alexa, don't spend any money until you have a plan. And what I mean by that is, what is your goal? How does this voice channel align with your business goals and strategies, right? Is it just customer appreciation and awareness? Or are you trying to drive foot traffic or e-commerce to your website? You need to know what your goal is and have a plan before you spend any money, because otherwise you're going to be wasting your time and money. Know who you're targeting as well. Like, it's not just every Alexa user. No, I want Alexa users that are women between the ages of 18 and 35. It's marketing. You should know your demographic. So make sure that your product you're putting out in this channel is a campaign that fits that demographic that you can measure ROI around. Otherwise, it's a cool presence thing. Everybody needs to be present on there. But I just want to say, it's so important to have a plan before just getting into it.
Yeah, no, it's funny that you bring that up because it's often, like new technology comes out and sort of like the whole, of all the other experience for all the other technologies they already leverage, some of that strategy just goes out the window when a lot of it is analogous to voice experiences today, right? Just because voice is really cool doesn't mean we forget that we need to develop a persona or develop a strategy, a go-to-market strategy, but sometimes, people tend to forget that a little bit. So I think it was an apt point that you bring that up.
I'll riff off that real quick.
Yeah.
There's people that are out there trying that advocate a voice strategy.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Listen to them. They'll teach you stuff. But like, if you're wanting to get into something, right? Let's say you wanna change your health and get into hiking. You go to REI and you buy a pair of hiking shoes, right? You want to get into hiking, but that doesn't mean that you're going to sit there and plan what's your strategy to become the expert hiker. No, dude, you got to take that first step. You got to go through that first trail, because once you have that experience, that's going to shape your entire strategy. You got to get some miles under it. So while you're doing that first course, that's when you're listening and learning about strategy. You don't have to wait to get in. Start building now, start experimenting now while it's early, and change your mind as you go. There you go. Sorry to sidetrack. It's just
no. I think that's incredibly aligned, to what we're talking about here, right? It's it's taking principles from the past, maybe even from mobile. We can take the same approach, right? It's like go out and build things, but make sure you're building a strategy at the same time, right? I don't think that it's too counterintuitive, but sometimes it almost seems that all that goes out the window when there's really exciting technology, right? It's like, let's rein it back in. Let's be practical about this. So the other point I was making is, it's not only the onus on the brands themselves, but also this evolving thing for the provider, right? So Amazon, I'm sure you saw at Remars, had released a new feature set that essentially enables skills to be linked together, right? And I think that is going to be huge. It almost creates the 21st century notion of a telephone switchboard, right? Where you have all these skills integrated to each other. So it's going to make discovery more accessible. So I was curious, like, what's your perspective on that? I'm sure you guys are probably pretty thrilled about that, but like, how are you seeing that in the perspective of our conversation here about marketing?
I think skill conversations, when it was a beta thing, it was skill to skill connections. I think it's huge. You say, I think it was interchange was the right word. I think that's a good way to phrase it. I'm excited because it enables developers, enables a better user experience, right? And the examples they want to throw out there are, if you want to order an Uber, right? It just jumps into the Uber skill. It doesn't make you exit anything. It feels like a seamless experience, right? And that's what everybody wants. I'm more excited about other use cases, and I think I'm excited about the use cases because of what it does and what Alexa Conversations enables is the interchange of the ecosystem of applications and platforms. So for example, there's a brand new voice commerce platform called Jetson.ai. And this is where people with physical products can go to plug them into their platform. And then you can buy them through a skill, through voice purchasing, right? Well, what if I already have a skill out there and I want it to, like, you know, kind of like how if you have 2 domain names and you don't want people going to that other domain name, but you want them all on that one property. That's what these conversations enables. So that user could use the one skill that calls the other skill to do some stuff transparently. Another super exciting use case that we're working on is with a company that Stuart Crane runs, SurveyLine. They do voice surveys. And think of it, right? You want to go to some platform or system to create a skill or application that gets integrated with another one. That's it. So my customer, like CenturyLink, could go and create a skill on voice surveys, and then link to it from their branded property. So the point is, this is what unlocks the ecosystem of voice applications to talk to each other. Let me give you another example. And you know what? I think I can share my screen on this Zoom. Let me see. Yeah, let me show you guys something super cool. This is a brand new feature that VoiceXP rolled out last week, and it's called personal context. So imagine that you are a 75-year-old woman who has hearing loss, right? This is the example. Let me try and make my screen a little bit bigger for everybody at home to see. This is cool. So sorry, be patient. This is worth the wait. So elderly woman. If you build a skill on the VoiceXP platform, it has the feature to unlock personal context. So imagine you're a user. You're using some skill, right? And you can go personal context. That's an intent that's built into the skills that are created on VoiceXP. It'll go, okay, what's your identifier? You give it your phone number as an example, right? So what this does is it now unlocks and exposes personal context about that user. So this elderly lady, excuse me, we've got her zip code, we've got her age, but we also have these preferences like prosody volume. That's how loud she wants the skills to be, or the rate, she wants it super high rate, or she wants the pen, the rate should be slow. So basically, imagine this. Grandma uses a skill, connects her personal context. Now the skill dynamically updates the SSML so that the volume is higher and the speech is slower because she has a hearing loss. And she can do something like expose her grandson's birthday. So if my skill is smart enough to read these variables, hey, Grandma, I noticed your grandson has a birthday coming up in a month. Would you like me to tell you about some birthday gifts? Or here's how easy it is, right? Here's your favorite color. It's pink. Now that I know it's pink, I can put some pink background screens on so she has, a more enjoyable experience. So this is essentially data that we're exposing via API to any application out there. It's just an API call, just another web app. But this is the type of conversation linking feature that will enable richer voice experiences. What do you think about that?
No, I think it's incredible. I mean, I think it's really baking in, just almost unlimited extensibility. It's like this like switchboard that has endless opportunities between skills. And I think, it will really become, I guess the 21st century SEO to a certain extent, right? We have this extensibility between all these different skills, and actions between those skills can sort of play out in sequence and leverage data, first-party data, third-party data. I think it's just an incredible architecture which is being built today, and definitely augmented by platforms such as yours. Because I think we're sort of at this jumping off point, right? The experiences are pretty good, right? But I think once we start being able to get that parity with conversations like you and I are having here. And not only that sort of malleability to, have conversations, but also to begin to interject context into that, right? Context that, even from this conversation you and I are having, something like that could be far augmented inside of an Alexa skill, because you're taking, data from all these other skills, or maybe all, the organization's first party data. And that's just very compelling. So I'm there with you. I'm super stoked.
I agree. So for example, I would add a personal context that says podcast link, right? So that's a variable any voice app could pull in and get the link to this episode of the podcast, right? Maybe it's an MP3 link, so that way it just dynamically starts playing the MP3,
100%.
Endless possibilities. So that's one of the features that we rolled out. We really feel like we have a 6-day product sprint. Not a 6-week or 6-month. We just keep awesome stuff coming out. Flash briefing, global skill and flash briefing deployments. I mean, stuff that you just can't do anywhere else. And if we put up a competitive matrix,
I did see that.
Yeah, we had an independent person that has no experience with this stuff create an account and use every single platform, and they created that stuff. We just added a little bit more categories, but if you want to see all the voice platforms and skill building tools, I should say, and how they rank up, go to voicexp.com/data.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there was something you mentioned, you're talking about conversational commerce there. And, I think that aligns nicely with the concept of multimodality. So if you could sort of give us, your interpretation of what does multimodality mean, and how does that support use cases that might be, out of reach of a singular modality. For example, if we were to go to Alexa today on just a voice speaker itself and said, hey, I want to go buy coats, right? Well, I can't see any visuals on that. So, the use case doesn't really work. But with the advent of multimodality, how does that sort of fit into this mix, amongst this umbrella that we're calling conversational AI? Like, where is that?
I think it's critical to the whole thing, because multimodal to me, it's 3 senses. It's hearing, it's sight, and then it's touch. And most people are really only focused on the seeing and the hearing, but the touch is a really, really important aspect that I think we have become accustomed to, right? With touching of iPhones and screen devices, it's very tactile. So the experiences that we offer that most people, I think 99.99% of the market offers, do not include touch, because there are not enough touch screen devices that are integrated yet. I just don't think people aren't using the touch as much as they are the voice prompt. I tell you that when we put an Echo Dot versus an Echo Show and run the same exact experience with a customer, but the Echo Show is obviously optimized for multimodal with visuals. It plays video as well. uh, 9 out of 10 times that customer says, I want that. I want that, because they, maybe it's just the way we explain it to them, but the way that it's moving is voice is, and these voice platforms, Alexa, Google, Bixby, are being built into screen devices. And, whether you're in a car, or you're at home, and TVs are going to have touch screens, but it's a TV. It's got a screen, right? That's where everything is moving towards. So the visual element enriches the experience for companies. It, enhances the brand. It gets to put their logo up there. It looks cooler. And it's just another sense for the brain to enjoy. I hope I answered your question.
No, I mean, like, I totally agree with that. Makes complete sense. And, I think it's just beginning to piece these different technologies together, into one compelling experience. And, it's taking some time, but, we're seeing, these things happen in quick succession here. So I know we're running, down the time here, but I wanted to ask you, like, we touched on it on a couple of things, right? But what challenges do you currently see that companies are having when adopting these voice experiences? Yeah, I know we touched on one of them, which was marketing, but what are other ones that you guys see when you interact with these brands?
It just depends. It's different for every business. I believe that that voice is in the same vein as digital transformation. And that's the buzzword, that's buzz phrase that's thrown out there, right? All these companies have to embrace cloud and new technology, and voice is one of those things. Whether they like it or not, it's here to stay. We like the numbers, the data. It's data driven. They need to make a data driven decision. I could recite the stats and say 75% of U.S. households will have a device by 2025 or 2021. It doesn't matter. It's just easier to talk on this stuff. So you have to embrace it. You have to. The same way that your business had to get a website in the 90s because everybody's coming online, it's the same thing. So the businesses, like, it's up to each one. Is it the CEO that makes the decision? The CMO? Is it, like, they have to figure out how voice is going to help them. And that's the challenge. They don't know how to help themselves with new technology.
Sure.
They oftentimes need an outsider to come in and go, here's how you can apply this thing.
Right.
Here's the use case to show you what you can do for your business. And that's where we're really successful, because we've got like hundreds of use cases for different kinds of businesses, and it's just like, let me show you. So it's the biggest challenge is just getting started. It's just like if you want to, you make a New Year's resolution. I want to lose weight. You're a business. I want to make more money. I got to do something new to stay competitive, to be relevant. Well, how do I get started? That's just the toughest part. And you can't let analysis incur paralysis. Like, make a decision, move. Do it cheap, experiment. That's the only way, So I don't know if I'm giving you a good answer, but it's just different for everybody. Like, I have small businesses tell me the same objection that venture capitalists have.
Yeah.
That's, I can't live without my phone, but I can live without Alexa. And, our rebuttal to that is, what do you say in 5 years when everybody has these things, when the kids that are growing up now, it's second nature, it's habit to them, and that shifts. Like, it's you have to be there. So some people, maybe they don't agree with the long term, but the data is there to show this is where it's going. And I think, human nature, just, it's easier. So the businesses just need to make the bandwidth to do it and find a good thing to get started with and start small.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's certainly a fair point. I think there are different, there's different reasons across the spectrum, right? From SMBs all the way up to enterprise. But I agree with you on your sentiment that, this is a tidal wave that's coming. It's not going to stop. And, I think an interesting point is, to your point about digital transformation is, this is one major touch point, and I think when people think about this technology, they think about it, as a point solution, but, think about it a couple of years down the road, like all of these different technologies interact with each other or will soon begin to interact with each other. So it's like this notion of building that architecture, and this is one technology piece that's going to be important for that, right? Instead of thinking about it as, oh, this just tells Donald Trump jokes. No, there's much greater architecture that's being built today. So one more question here on the topic of voice here. So I've begun asking people this question. So what important truths do very few people agree with you on, but you believe strongly in this space? Are there any that something you sort of foresee that other people are not seeing in this space?
It's not maybe it is a good question. Is there something I see that other people in the space don't see? Is that really the root of it?
Yeah. Like what are there like specific truths in this space or things that you see that you're really passionate on that you feel like the rest of the market hasn't really caught on to yet? Or
I don't know if I have a good answer for that. Like what are some of the truths? Well, I think I'm in startup world.
Yeah.
A lot of if you're in the voice space, it's startup world. You could be funded, and that's great. But I think the truth is, it's nothing but hard work. And if you want to succeed in the voice space, you're going to have to work relentlessly and be completely all in committed. I mean, the race is on, and the truth is, it's the only way to get ahead is with hard work. And it's still good time, but there's a lot of companies that are in it now that it's going to be tough to beat because a lot of people have good ideas, but are they going to be able to execute and monetize them? But the truth is, if you're thinking about getting into voice, if you're in voice, it's hard. It's really hard. That's what you need to know. Like the more uncomfortable you are, the more successful you will be, because it forces you to figure things out. That's why we've bootstrapped our company for 2.5 years, and we've sacrificed a lot and been uncomfortable, because that's when you really, really, really learn. You have to. And so if you want to get into voice, you better be prepared to be uncomfortable and work super hard and be positive.
Yeah, no, I love that sentiment. And I think that's probably a good segue to my final question I always ask all my interviewees here. You're right. The space is very wild, wild west right now. There is ambiguity, there is uncertainty, so for you, what gets you out of bed every morning? What keeps you motivated? What keeps you like energized in this space? Like, what's your motivation?
That's the easiest question. I get text messages from people, customers, that tell me I'm addicted. I showed this off and people said, I have never seen anything like that before. I have customers tell me, I built something in 15 minutes and it saved my business tens of thousands of dollars per month. I get up every morning crazy excited to get to work. I'm in the office every day by 7:30, every day, sometimes 7 or earlier. Like I'll get up wicked early because I have a feature I want to roll out. I need to QA something. Like we do, my team, we do stand-ups early. Like I love getting into work every day because like I don't want to, it's going to sound really like you guys are going to probably be judgmental on me, but like I have the best thing out there. It's the #1 platform on the market. You can do things easier and faster on what I built than what anybody else makes. And so that gets me crazy excited. Like when you got the best thing in the world, you get up every day to work harder, to go, how can I make this thing better? How can I take it to more people? And the text messages and the emails and the feedback, that's what keeps me so motivated, man, because customers, like, they love this stuff. They can't get enough. They tell their friends. Oh, sorry. But like, it's just, that's what motivates me every day is building something badass. And that's what we enable people to do. So you just got to figure it out for yourself. And when you got it because you wake up ready to go.
Incredible. I love it, Bob. Thank you again so much for being on the podcast. Definitely looking forward to having you back again. Can't wait to see what new features you guys are cooking up.
Yeah, me too. Just follow VoiceXP on LinkedIn. That's where we drop all the fresh, super hot stuff. We're on the Twitters. Just Google us. Sign up for free, voicexp.com. You can build, pay to deploy. It's badass. I want to say, Chad, I appreciate the opportunity to be on here. I'm really grateful, but I also want to thank everybody that's watching and listening. You spent an hour with us. I know you could have, your time and attention could have been on other things, but you're here with us. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome. Have a great day, guys.